Hello, y'all. I'm so excited seeing people already in the chat. Glad y'all are excited. So I'll just highlight a couple y'all. Hey, Uncle Phil, Web5, and others. All right, y'all. So this is going to be, I think, a fun workshop. It's my first time doing this particular workshop, but I think it's a cool idea. Why is it counting down to get me prepared, y'all? I can't just jump straight in. I like to have a little bit of an intro. Um, hey, Ola Soy Milk, what's going on? Or why am I saying your username? Hey, Ramon. All right, cool. I am gonna go ahead and just share my screen. Definitely feel free to be like as talkative as possible in the chat. The browser can't access your screen. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. Let's see why I can't access my screen. That's not good. But give me a quick second to just focus and figure out why it's not able to. Okay, share screen. Let me try one more time. If not, I will. Give me a quick second. I'm excited about this talk, y'all. I think it's going to be interesting and fun. I'm also fairly new to Web5. Let's see if this works. There we go. Yay. All right. I'm fairly new to Web5, so I think it's kind of great to hear it from my perspective of like how much I understand so far in these past 2 months. I would love to know in the chat, like, how familiar are you all with Web5 before like I go ahead and do like a deep dive on anything? And definitely feel free to be communicative, like talk a lot, because the more you talk, the more fun it will be. Yeah, thank you so much for trying to help me out. All right. I've never heard of it. I only know Web3. Okay, cool. I will just jump straight in. Very new to Web5. Perfect. So, as you can see, the title of my talk or my workshop is called On Wednesdays We Use Web5, A Mean Girl's Guide to Data Sovereignty. So I want to give you all a little bit of a brief to what Web5 is and to what Mean Girls is, because I've made a couple of references here and I realized maybe some people don't know. I also want to give you a quick note that somewhere within this workshop, you'll need your cell phone. So definitely have it nearby. You can use your laptop for the segment that I'm referring to, but it is easier with your cell phone. I'll quickly introduce myself for people who don't know me. My name is Rizal Scarlett. I'm a staff developer advocate at a company called TBD. And no, it does not stand for to be determined. We're not still trying to decide the name. It stands for to be decentralized, just so you know. And at TBD, we're building something called Web5. And this workshop's essentially going to show you why it matters, how you can build with it. But before that, I do want us to get to know each other. So I'll start by just telling you a little bit more about myself, and then I'll ask you questions just to warm up, because I feel like workshops can be like dry and dull, so want to just do some fun stuff. So for me, I am like a baby millennial, I would say, because I was born in like 95, so kind of almost on the Gen Z side, but not yet. I don't really relate with them, but I being a millennial meant I grew up with a lot of awesome stuff like Bratz and Mean Girls, and like I don't know if y'all remember the song Crank That Soldier Boy. And also, I love the song I Write Sins Not Tragedies by Panic at the Disco. And obviously, I love Mean Girls, which is why my talk is titled that way. I would love to know, like, what is your favorite TV show or song or movie right now, or even from the past? And let me go check the chat, see what y'all are saying. I have so many windows opened. Where's my chat? Oh, here it is. Okay, so, hey Nick, what's going on? Must be a cell phone, be a smartphone. Well, I guess if you don't have a smartphone, you can use your laptop. So someone said the Black Book movie. Interesting. Dragon Ball Z, nostalgia always wins. Word. I don't know what JJK is. I watched Lupin before. It's pretty good. It was like trippy. I was like, oh, he's a trickster. Now you see me. I like that movie too. All right, cool. We're going to move into Demon Slayer. My husband loves Demon Slayer. I think it's good, but I'm not as into it as other people. All right, cool. So I'm gonna go through Mean Girls. It's gonna make sense why I'm talking about Mean Girls and how it has to do with Web5. All right, so like I told y'all already, I love the movie Mean Girls. It was super iconic, but if you've never watched it before, I'll give you a bit of a recap. Basically, it's centered around this main character, like Katie, and she's played by Lindsay Lohan, and basically she attends public school for the first time. She used to be like homeschooled and lived in Africa, and her plan is to essentially like take down the popular clique called the Plastics because she wants to expose them. Her and her friends want to expose them for the manipulative behavior. But in order for her to do that, she has to become one of them. So she does all of the things they do. Like on Wednesdays, they wear pink. They essentially like color coordinate and like they just coordinate their clothes because they're like, we're the cool kids here. They also have something called a burn book, right? She finds out the Plastics have a burn book where they write rumors and secrets and insults about other girls and some of the teachers at schools. It's some really malicious content, to be honest. But the idea is that no one besides them is ever supposed to see the content that's inside of there. And it's supposed to be a private book, and it was a private book until the leader of the Plastic, Regina George, gets upset. She photocopies all the pages and she distributes them across school. And now now everyone knows everyone's secrets. There's no privacy, including teachers. Everyone's outed. All right, so y'all might know this, maybe you don't. Basically, in January 2024, they're going to air, like, I don't know if they're considering it a reboot or a sequel, but they're calling it Mean Girls 2. And for the purpose of this workshop, we're going to be in it. Not really, but we're going to be in it, okay? So, hear me out. Principal Duval wants us to rebuild the burn book with Web5. And, you know, hindsight's 2020. You might be saying, why would he want the burn book back, right? 20 years later, he's starting to realize how important that self-expression is for his students. But he does want to avoid the problem where rumors get spread and friendships get ruined. So his solution, he thinks, would be to have students have control over like their privacy and all that. So he's like, you know what? I've heard of something called Web5, and that allows for user privacy and data privacy. So he's employed the best and the brightest software engineers, aka us, to take the lead in that initiative. In order for us to do that, we're like, okay, maybe we'll agree to it. We'll do like a bit of a minimal viable project. We don't have that much time right now, so we can't do like the whole thing. But we'll do a little bit. And he's like, great. You'll need to do a little bit of training. You'll need to learn what Web5 is. We'll need to learn why it matters. We need to follow the quick start guide, which I'll show you. And then we'll test our knowledge and we'll end up building a Web5 application and like part of a burn book. So starting off, what is Web5? Web5 this is the way I would describe it, not necessarily the way my company describes it, but I like to say it in my own words. And it's an ecosystem that enables developers to build decentralized applications that prioritize data ownership and user privacy. Basically, if you've heard of the W3C or Worldwide Consortium, they created new identity standards, and a Web5 basically provides a framework to apply those standards. So it's not something that we just like randomly came up with. W3C, they have come up with some of these identity standards, and we're like, hey, let's put this into like an SDK, a programming language, a framework, so people can actually build off of these specifications that W3C made. So in one of the specifications is called a decentralized identifier. And in the Web5 ecosystem, every person, every user has a decentralized identifier, which sometimes people call DID or DID for short. And it's represented as an alphanumeric string. So as you can see here, the beginning part where it says DID is called a scheme. This middle part is called a DID method. So sometimes you'll see it say like DID ion or DID key or DID web or DID DHT. Those are all representative of the type of method. And then there's also a method specific identifier. All right, so a little bit more about DIDs. They are a W3C open standard. They're based on cryptographic principles, not cryptocurrency. just to emphasize that. And they're not tied to one web application or system. So basically, whatever web application you go on, you have that decentralized identifier with you. It kind of bypasses that issue of like, oh, you log into one site, you need to remember your username, you need to remember your password, you need to create a new password because you had that one 5 years ago or whatever. Like, you don't need to do that. You're just on the web app and it identifies who you are. Your DID also gives you access to a decentralized web node, which people like to call a DWN. And that basically acts as your personal data store. So the way I like to think of DWNs and the way I've heard people call it as my company is it's kind of like Dropbox, but this one is your personal Dropbox. And here's the reality of like some tools like Dropbox and other products. I have nothing against them, but the reality is Dropbox can do things like change the terms of service on you. It can access your data, or it can even just shut down your services, leaving you without access. So with DWNs, you don't have that problem because DWNs provide a personal space where your data is stored and you decide who gets access. So you might be thinking, who cares? And for a long time, I think I was thinking that too. I was like, this is how the internet is, right? Like, people take my data. This is the only way I know how to do things. But the real reason too is our data is often like sold and exploited. If you've ever been like just scrolling on like TikTok and you think you just had a thought, and then you see that thought on TikTok and you're like, what is going on? Like, oftentimes you all know as technologists, they're really like using our data because that's how businesses run. They run off of our data. And I think the problem is sometimes we think we own our content. Sometimes we think we own our accounts. But really, behind the scenes, if we ended up even deleting our accounts, companies still have access to that data and they can still like use it for whatever purposes. Also, the inventor of the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee, he's also working on something very similar. And that's because he had an original intention for the web to be decentralized. So I'll just read this quote very quickly. And he says, I think the public has been concerned about privacy, the fact that these platforms have a huge amount of data and they abuse it. But I think they're missing but I think they're missing sometimes. But I think what they're missing sometimes is the lack of empowerment. Sorry, y'all, I cannot read. Not in this font, at least. You need to get back to a situation where you have autonomy and you have control of all your data. So I hope that helps you to feel a little bit excited about stepping into the future of like data privacy, where we'll eventually have like rights over our data. And when your data is deleted, it's deleted for real. Okay, so I'm going to pause before I get into the next thing. I just want to see what the chat is saying. People are just saying hello. Okay, cool. Let me see. It's all about individuals to own their data and online identity. Perfect. Exactly. Cool. All right. I'm going to go back then to the slides. This might be shorter than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so now that we know what Web5 is, I think it's important for us to understand how to store and retrieve data from our DWN. Because like I told you, Web5 enables you to store data in this personal data store. But how do you get it in there? And I think one thing about like decentralization and decentralized identity that always intimidated me was like, it sounded so complex. I'm like, I don't know what y'all are talking about. It doesn't sound like anything that I can relate to like my past software engineering experiences. However, I found Web5 to have a lot of different parallels. For example, in order to store data in a data store, Web5 uses a very familiar concept. So, I mean, if you're not a software engineer, maybe it's not as familiar to you, but if you do have software engineering experience, you might be familiar with the term CRUD, which stands for create, read, update, and delete. So we're gonna go through this quick start guide, and I actually should have sent y'all the slides before, but we're gonna go through this quick start guide. Y'all can follow me or you can just watch if you want. And I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. Give me a second to do that. I'm gonna stop sharing. And let's see. Oh, thank you so much, Ace. Appreciate you. Cool. I dropped it in there. I might put it over as a banner too. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna go over to the quick start. This is just gonna like give you like a first impression or first start with Web5. All right, I'm gonna share my screen again. Cool. Tell me in the comments if you're going to follow along. Let's see what the questions are. So this is an intermediary between traditional Web 2 services and their servers. I think that's an interesting way to think of it. I think the way that the company has been thinking of it is they're bridging the good stuff out of Web3, like the idea of having your data and stuff decentralized. They really love that. So they're taking those parts, but they don't want to replace a lot of Web2 tools. So they're taking those parts too and combining it. What blockchain networks hold the nodes, or can DWNs get connected to all decentralized chain networks? I don't fully know that answer, to be honest. I only worked here for 2 months so far. However, what I do know is right now the only part of Web5 that's like related to blockchain is our decentralized identifier. And I believe that we are moving to a different decentralized identifier method. So after we move to that, we are going to be we're essentially going to be doing decentralization without blockchain. Okay. Thank you. Ace said the DWNs are not on the blockchain. Thank you. Perfect. All right. I don't know why things don't want to share for me. There we go. All right. So, oh, this is zoomed in too much. All right. So here is the quick start guide. I'm going to go through it and I'm going to read through it a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and do it together. And people said, I'm familiar with CRUD. Wow, it's getting interesting. So we input our data to whatever system and have full control over how it's manipulated or used. What guarantees this? I will show you. There's something called protocols that enable you to do that. But first, let's just look at this Web5 in 5 minutes thing, and then we can try it out ourselves. So first thing it tells us to do is essentially to just create a directory, and then we're going to go ahead and initialize something called npm. After that, we'll install the npm package and we'll get that set up. So let's go ahead and try that out right now. I am going to pull up I'll give you all time if you want to get your environment ready. And I'll stop sharing this. Owning our data is key, but having control of, exactly. I think that's where it changed the game for me. I was like, wow. I don't know why it won't share only one at a time. Sorry, y'all. I really want to share my screen so we can actually go through this, but my computer doesn't want to. And I'm wondering if I should refresh. I don't want to end the call. Let's see. Web 4 is not a thing, y'all. This is not an evolutionary. While I'm figuring this out, I'll just talk to you all. But it's not like a next evolution. It's not like the next evolution of Web 3. It's just, it was just a play on the term. Why won't it share? I was just sharing a second ago as well. This sucks. Maybe I'm going to take my camera off and then jump back in, because I really want us to get coding. While I'm setting this up, definitely I'm gonna post the link again. Start like reading through that and setting up your environment so we can start with that. Let's see. What's the difference between Web 5 and Web 3? I can answer this while I'm hoping to get something working. Basically, one of the biggest difference I found is we're not as reliant on blockchain. And one of the things I found out about blockchain, because I had no experience with Web 3 before this or blockchain, is that in order to do different things like transactions, you have to pay. And it makes sense for like things like Bitcoin. But let's say you made like an Instagram clone or something of that sort, it really doesn't make that much sense to have people paying for that. So I think we're essentially avoiding that problem. I am really sad that the thing won't come on, that my screen won't share. I low-key. Wait, Ace or Ebony, can you come on here so that I can leave and try to, because I don't want to end the call. I don't want to end the stream, but I want to share my screen. I can't really move forward. Let me see what other things. Yes, it is mostly unrelated, apart from the concepts of decentralization. When you authorize access to your DWN, does it mean they have access to all your data within the DWN? No, you literally, I really want to show this. You can control that part. Hey Ace, I'm sorry. Give me, I don't know why it won't let me, but I'm going to leave, like close Google Chrome and try to come back.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll just answer questions in chat in the meantime.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ace. Happy to be here. Let's see. I was checking some questions earlier. How's everyone doing? um. Oh, hi JTech. Hi everyone. Someone was asking earlier about if you can use remote DWNs right now. So yes, I was mentioning that TVD currently provides a bunch of remote nodes just for this development preview period. But once you go live, once we have the full release, users are in complete control of where they host their DWNs and how you choose to access it. Missing. No TBD. Okay, we said it's back, but no TBD isn't necessarily the host of. We are the host of Web5 as the SDK, but it's an open source project. It's totally open, and we are not like the owner of it. But as of right now, it's just building this protocol for more people to also build on it and continue to go like most open source projects do. So yeah, welcome back. Can you share now?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was stressed out. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I
Sorry.
going to do? Thank you for saving me.
Don't worry.
All right.
I can go back to responding to the questions in chat, so you can just go ahead.
Okay.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you. All right. We're back, y'all. That was my computer was not trying to let me win. All right. Okay. So let's go through this together if you want. If not, you can just watch me. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and like set up my like first Web5 application. This is a very simplistic one, and then after that we'll get into like a more deeper one afterwards. So first thing I want to do, I'm gonna open up my terminal, and let's get there. Terminal, so y'all can see it. And I'm gonna zoom all the way in for y'all, clear this. And we're just going to follow it step by step so you all can see. So first step was basically to create a folder called Web5 application. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then of course, after that, we're gonna CD into that folder that we just created. And once we did that, the next step is to initialize NPM. Because if you're not familiar with JavaScript, that's like a node package manager. It helps you to like manage dependencies and stuff like that. Next thing we want to do is to install npm or install Web5. That's our package that you'll use, our SDK that we'll use. So we're going to go ahead and install that. Let me see the chat while we're going. What does TBD stand for? It stands for to be decentralized. Someone said, I've been reading some part of the Web5 TBD. I still don't get how users will have access. Let's see. I think near the end, it'll start connecting. If not, I definitely have a lot of time. I like put a lot of time for us to just like answer and sit down and ask questions. All right. So next thing I want to do, and I think if you all do this too, it will start clicking even more. So definitely follow along. The next thing I want to do is actually create my file, which is called index.js. And I'm going to go ahead and just open this up in Visual Studio Code for myself. So I will go to open documents, and where did I put this thing? Let me do PWD. Projects, perfect. Documents, projects, and Web5 application. Next thing we want to do is we're going to basically store some items inside of this application. I'll close this out so it won't look as confusing to you. But we're going to go ahead and import our Web5 library here. Import. And for node 18, there's an additional import. Okay. And next thing we want to do, and let me just check the chat. Oh, slow down. Okay, cool. I'll make this a little bigger. And I'll put the link in the chat too. Please zoom in. Got you. And remember, you don't necessarily have to follow like my screen because the link is right here. I'm copying what is in here. Yes, y'all, there is no Web4. This seems pretty zoomed. Okay, cool. So we've imported the package. We're also importing this dependency to kind of help us out. And next thing we want to do, with this being so big, y'all, all right. Next thing we want to do is we want to create some records, or actually we want to connect to Web5, right? And this is one way. I'm going to paste it in. All right. So this line right here helps us to connect to Web5, and it also helps us to generate something called a decentralized identifier. I believe I said that term earlier. People call it a DID. This is our ID on the internet. It's an alphanumeric string. And instead of it being like, oh, I got to type in my username and password to authenticate, you can use a DID to authenticate. Is there a Python variant? I don't think so yet. Not yet, but I'm sure we'll work on that. Okay. Next is essentially writing DWN records. So we're going to go ahead and copy this. Remember, it's just copy and paste. And we'll walk through this a little bit, right? So we're using this Web5 instance that we helped us to connect to Web5. We're using that, and we're going to do web5.dwn.records.create. And what we'll do is we'll pass in whatever record we want to create. It could be text, it could be an image, it could be audio, but you can store whatever you want in there. For now, I don't want to say hello Web5. That's boring. Maybe a Mean Girls reference. What should I say? I'm going to say stop trying to make fetch happen. to make fetch happen. And then you can see as well, you specify what data format. So here it's just text plain, but maybe you have application JSON. Maybe you have like an MP4 for video or MP3. So those are the type of things. And then what it's going to do is it's going to take the object or the property of record out of there. It's going to do some destructuring. So what we can do, you can run it in the quick start guide as well and see what would happen. But I just want to run it inside of my actual IDE. So I'm going to go ahead and do console.log, write result record, paste, and make this a little bigger. This is huge. We're going to go ahead and run node index.js. And okay. Let's see. Let's see what people are saying. I would say I would love a really deep explanation of what happens when you call Web5 Connect method. It's basically somewhere in the docs that Web5.js SDK currently does some computation. You know what I usually do when I want to know what's going on behind the scenes of a package is I go to like the type definition. I don't know if that's something you all do, but I usually go to the type definition and then I get a chance to see, all right, here's all the different packages that are happening in here. We have the did API, we have the DWN API, we have protocol.js. So you can just keep going deeper and deeper and trying to figure out like, hey, here's how each of these are interacting and here's what's happening behind the scenes. But like very simple is that it's connecting to the Web5 and returning an instance for us, and then it's returning a DID. I am a little sad that it didn't return what we wanted yet, but let's just figure out. Let's go through this together. So, I didn't put type module. That's why I skipped a step. I'm gonna do comma type. So if you were following me and you did not do that part, just go to do type module right now. This is a very poppin', like a lot of people are here. All right. Cool. Once we do that, now let's try running it one more time. And what we should see is our DID. Oh no, we should see our record that we're printing out. Let's save this. And I'm going to do node index.js. There we go. So in our record, we have a whole bunch of information in here, including our own DID. It's trying to specify like, oh, who wrote this? I'm the author of it. Also a couple other things like just the agent information and context ID. We don't have any, and what type of method it is. We know that we did a write record, but basically here it is, it exists. And I believe if you change it, if you do record.data.json, or actually, let me not do that yet. I think it's just record.text for this situation. Yeah, here we go. To read the result, now we just want to do await record.data.text because this is a text like data that we submitted. So I will undo this part and we're going to be able to just read it. So this is just returning like, hey, we stored what you wanted in the DWN. Now we want to actually read what's in there. And we're going to console log read result for ourselves. Oh, do you all need it this big? I'm going to just make it a little smaller. I can't really type like this. All right. So we're going to do read result. And once we run it again, and I'm gonna comment out the console log for write record. Yes, this is beginner right now, but don't worry, we'll do a bit more in a second. I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So I'm gonna go ahead and do node index.js, and there we go. We have the first printout of me saying read result, and then I also had stored stop trying to make fetch happen, and that got printed out as well. Next thing that happens is basically being able to update your record. Like I said, we're just using CRUD. And I think that's what made me be like, wow, wait, Web5 is, and decentralization is not as intimidating. I love how they made this SDK, because it's like, okay, these are familiar concepts. I know that like when I'm interacting with data, I want to read the result. I want to write to the result. I want to update it. So here's how you would do an update. We're just going to copy this again. And let's see, what else do I want to say? Get in losers. This is from Mean Girls references. We're making, I'll do double quotes. We're making Web5 happen. Alrighty, and I'll comment this out, and I'm gonna go ahead and print out the updated result. So what happens is it just gives us a status of if it worked or if it didn't work, right? So what it says is like, it was successful, it was accepted, and it went through. So if we ended up reading our result again, it might be different. And after I do this, I'll check the chat one more time. Let's see what the thing says. Oh, nope, I was wrong. I just went ahead. Let's see. Did I update it? I didn't print out updated result. Yeah, that's why. Here we go. Now the updated result is here. Why am I being like this? Here we go. There we go. I tend to be a person that just skips ahead on any instructions, even though I've done this before. Like with recipes or putting together furniture, I don't ever pay attention. So that was totally my bad. So we did get it updated. And then this last one, and let me check the private chat. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Ace. This last one is basically we're going to go ahead and delete the records, which we shouldn't see any records after this. So we're going to, first it's going to probably print out like, hey, was this successful or not? So let's do delete result. And because I tried to do update too. Let me delete that for a bit. Let me follow the instructions and stop being like this. Let's see. That's why. Yeah, so the errors we were seeing were just because I didn't comment out the rest of my code, and I was still trying to read a result after we deleted the result. And it's like, there's no data in here. All right, so we went through all of that, and I know it was a little bit of a hiccupy, but I think that's okay. I'm like completely fine with doing that. Oh, the comments are less clear. All right, but we'll basically recap what just happened, and then I'll go back to the slides. So first thing that happened was we installed the Web5 NPM package. After that, we imported it so that we'd be able to use it. There's also like some dependency that there was a little bit of an error. So we want to make sure we install this web crypto thing. It's not to do with cryptocurrency. It has to do with cryptography, just so y'all know. After that, make it a little bit bigger again. After that, the next thing we did is we connected to Web5, and that like returned a Web5 instance for us, and it also generated a DID for us, or our decentralized identifier. Then we saw that we can basically use different methods like create to add items to our DWN. Then after that, we got to read the result and we saw it say stop trying to make fetch happen. After me not paying attention, we were able to update the result to say get in losers, we're making Web 5 happen. And after that, we got a chance to delete all of them. So as you can see, pretty I think it's mostly straightforward in doing that. Once you get these parts done, or once you get a hold of these parts, you'll be able to soar with Web 5. Okay, let's see. Where are people at? There's so many comments. Let's see. Okay, someone was helping me out. Well detailed. Logging my did and Web 5 is coming out blank. All right, let's go back through let's just look at what I have and then what else is in that quick start. Did you await? Yeah, I think it might be if you didn't await, because it needs to return I think a promise. So definitely do that. But I'm going to move forward to the next part, y'all. That might be a little bit more interesting. I'm going to go ahead and wait, let's see. Why are we using it asynchronously only? I believe from what I saw, some of them return promises, so you need to use async. I tried logging read result after updating it, and it's still giving me the former data I passed in. We saw me have that issue as well. And I think what ended up happening is I had to, let's try it again, just so you see what we did. I'll run through this one more time for y'all. Okay. We'll run through it one more time, but I do want to get to the next part. Actually, y'all, the next part's way more interesting than this. I don't know if I want to stick on this too long, but definitely if you're stuck, go in the Discord and we'll help you. Is Web 5 all about coding? It's a JavaScript SDK. It's not all about coding, but what I am going to show is going to be heavy on the code. All right, let's get back to the slides. And I want to have enough time to build out this other thing. So you'll get another chance, y'all. And I think what I'm going to show y'all is a little bit more easier to follow along. I might have went too fast. All right, let's see. It's an open source platform to help. Yeah, it's not all about coding. It's about being able to own your data, but this SDK enables developers to build applications with code that can give users that opportunity. Okay. Let's get back into the business of where we were at so that everything can connect a little bit more. So we got a chance to see that. And I'll put this up here for y'all. And let me double check that you can see my screen. No, you cannot. Alrighty. Okay. So we learned about what Web 5 is. I'll do a quick recap. Again, it's an ecosystem to build applications that prioritize data ownership and user privacy. There's decentralized identifiers, which basically are represented as alphanumeric string, and there are identities on the decentralized web. There are decentralized web nodes, which you store your data, your personal data in there, and you have control on how it gets used. But here's another thing I wanted to show y'all as well, and that's on creating DIDs. So we saw already one way that you would create a decentralized identifier, and I'll go back to our code. And one way we would do that is by essentially saying hey, connect to Web 5, and I want to use the structuring to take out the DID and the Web 5 instance. However, oftentimes this DID is connected to like your browser or whatever, right? And let's say you want to like create a different one that's not attached to your browser or your session storage. What you can do, and let me open this up for you all, is, let's save that. What you can do, and you don't have to type with me or anything like that, you can just watch just for your own knowledge, is you can create methods using basically they have the different like did methods. So you can use the did ion method, you can use the did key method, or you can use the did DHT, or as Angie likes to say, the did DAF method. So if we were going to go ahead and like console log some of these, I know did ion's going to give me a little bit of trouble, so I'm going to comment that one out. But if we go ahead and print these out, we'll see that it's going to return a did for us. This one's a little bit shorter, which is awesome. It printed out a did key and a did DHT. So if you were ever like, hey, I want to create a did for my application, but I don't necessarily want it attached to like my browser or my session storage, you can use one of these did methods like this. And then of course you would also have to import the Web5/dids package. Alrighty. Now, a lot of people were asking like, how do you have that control over your data? How do you decide who gets to see what? Or as soon as you get your DWN and give user access, do they get to see everything? Protocols are what makes it happen. And I had those same questions as you. I was like, I really don't get how this is possible. But protocols are something that are just simply JSON objects. Like you can see here on the right-hand corner. Hopefully this is big enough for you. But basically, all this is doing is defining how my data is going to be structured and who gets access to that data. So in this situation, my data structure is called a ding. Your data structure could be anything. It could be a message, it could be audio, it could be a chat, it could be a directory or like a contacts list or something like that, right? And I can say who can get access and how they can interact with this ding, right? So here in this actions array, I can say, hey, I want anyone to be able to write a ding in my application. But only the author of that ding can read or the author of the person who wrote that ding can read it, and the person who received it can read it. So nobody else, if they didn't receive it and if they didn't write it, they can't be able to see or view that ding, if that makes sense. Other parts of the protocol that are important to note are you have this URL here. A lot of people get very overwhelmed by it and they're like, oh my gosh, like, does it have to be a resolvable URL? We put this URL here because we want to be able to like have a unique identifier. This is a unique identifier for your protocol on the DWN. That way you don't get like confused, or the application doesn't get confused with similar protocols. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a resolvable address. Basically, it's just has to be in this format. So I can show you all as well. If I go to, I tend to use like my own personal URL for this, or my own domain, because I know no one else is using this and it can't get confused with anything, but you can use whatever strategy you want. However, if I went to, what was it? Dinger protocol, it's like Black Girl Bites Dinger protocol. That wouldn't resolve to anything. So it does not have to be a live website. It just needs to be something that's unique. It is good practice to maybe use something that actually is related to the protocol, so that you're not like confused and saying like, what is this about? Why am I using it? Okay. And let me go back. So what I want to try to do is go ahead and build this burn book. I'm going to go as slow as possible. But let me give you all the link for it too. I think it's going to be a little bit easy to follow, or I shouldn't say it's going to be easy, but I'm hoping it's going to be easy to follow. Because I wrote out a little guide and it's a lot of copying and pasting. So I'm going to paste this into the chat and I'm going to go ahead and see what y'all are saying too. All right. Oh, my camera turned off? I don't know, y'all. It's a bad day. All right, let's see. Let's see the chat. So can have the opportunity to chat with one of the people working on the Web5 JS SDK, got tons of questions. Yeah, you know what I would do if I were you? I would join the Discord that we have and I can post it soon. I don't know what's going on with my camera. Okay, but I can post it soon. Let me type it right now. Discord.com/invite/TBD. Oh, you already joined it. Yeah, there's a Web5 channel which will allow you to be able to get access to all that. The simple chat app. Cool. Does TBD have any web app that uses this SDK? Yeah, the chat app. Is it because I'm on Node 20? What's the max node? No, I've used Node 20 with it. You should be fine. All right, but it's okay. We'll start off with this. I'm going to put this in the chat. Everybody, I'm gonna take some time. I'm gonna wait maybe like a minute for everyone to go to this link. And let me put the link on the screen as well. Okay. If you take a look at our README, it's going to walk us through how we're going to get this done. So for now, just get to the URL, maybe in the chat, tell me that you're there. What is the role of designers in this journey of Web5? That's a very interesting question. I mean, I'm sure designers will have to design our web applications. I'm not very good at design, so that's a good idea. And then if people are into data science as well, we recently talked to this data scientist that was talking about like the role of like data science in decentralized identity and how like using data analysis helps to improve like our usage, and maybe we can even like use AI to help with user privacy and all that. It was very cool. Please give one example of a web app, please. We are about to build one. I am just waiting for y'all to get on this screen. Okay, you can't copy the link, but if you type in github.com/galaxybytes/starter burn book mean girls, you can get there. I should have gotten a QR code for y'all. I'm glad that the simple chat app was helpful, maybe. All right, cool. What I want y'all to do once we get there is click edit and code sandbox. That's going to be the easiest thing we can do. I'm going to open it up in a new tab. That way I can be able to go back to the README. Okay, cool. So it's auto detecting Node and JavaScript for me. I'm going to go ahead and press next and allow it to install and do all the tasks that it needs to. And while it does that, I'll read the chat. Let's see. Okay, thank you so much, Angie and Ace, for answering these questions. There's a ton of people here. Can we have a practical example, like a platform where I register with my email and password, but using Web5? How would that be handled? Yeah, so I mean, I can answer this out loud. Like your DID will be recognized by that. Hold on, I thought this was moving. It's not. Next, apply and start. I think you might even be able to see it within this web app here. Because what we're going to do, I'll give you all a little brief of how this application is going to work. or we can even see it live here before we actually build it. Okay, so far, like I told you all, this is an MVP, so it's not all the features that a burn book would have. Like when I say burn book, I'm saying like basically a private timeline where you can write whatever you want. I'm not encouraging negativity, but you can write a message that only you will be able to see, maybe a message that groups of people will be able to see, and maybe messages that only one person will be able to see. So if I wanted to only write a message that I can see and nobody else, I can essentially go ahead and write a secret message here. So while we're waiting for this to start up, well, this is like the already finished application. So I can say, what will I say? I am learning Web5. Right? And because this is chosen, like because I chose secret, this is only going to write to my DWN. Once we look at the code, we'll be able to see how and why. So I'm going to press submit, and we see immediately that it has my DID. So I didn't even have to sign in. It knows it knows that like I'm coming from this computer with this DID. And it says like the timestamp, and it has my message as well. And it writes that, oh, this is a secret. If I go to a different browser or incognito mode, it's not going to recognize me as the same person. So I'm going to paste this. I'm going to copy this browser address in and paste it in here. And as you can see, there's no message because I wrote that message only to myself and nobody else. But if, let's say I wanted to send a message to somebody, or let me write a secret message for this person. This is my secret. Submit. But if I wanted to maybe send a message to that person, right? So I'll copy their did, because that's how I'll be able to say, hey, I want to send it to this particular person. This is their identity or ID. And yes, it is long, but you can make like aliases and stuff like that for it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it to be a direct message instead. I'm going to enter the recipient's DID, and I'm going to say, hey, incognito. Okay, so it posted on mine as well, like as me as the sender, but let's see if it also went on the other side. I hope it did. If I refresh the messages, here we go. Awesome. So it says, hey, incognito for me, and then this is my secret, but it didn't have the message of like, I am learning Web5. So hopefully that like kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to build. Let's see what comments let's care. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so we only have a few more minutes. I really didn't think this would take that long. All right, cool. So we're all back in Code Sandbox. For me, everything has installed. Hopefully it did for you. All I did was press next, and it like did the setup for me. Can the protocol URL be anything that doesn't exist? It just, like I told you, it just has to be a URL. Here's like a protocol URL that I used, and it reaches a 404. It's not a resolvable website. Like nobody goes to this website. It doesn't really work. It's just that it has to follow that URI pattern, which with HTTPS and all that. Oh yeah, sorry. I just saw the message that like I don't need to answer the chat, but I just feel tempted to. Okay, cool. First thing we want to do, y'all. So we have it opened in Code Sandbox. First thing we want to do is we want to locate the line that says console.log. This log is in init web5. What I'm going to do to make this super easy for myself is I'm just going to go ahead and copy this line, and I'm going to search for it in the index.js. All right, I found it. It's highlighted. I will give you all 10 seconds to find it. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to go ahead and replace that line that I found with this code snippet. Again, we're trying to get the Web5 instance, and we're trying to get our own DID as well. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it right where we had it. So for those not familiar with Next.js, basically it's saying as soon as the project loads, We want to connect to Web5 and we want to get our DID, and then we're going to go ahead and like set that as our DID so we can use it throughout the application. Awesome. Next thing I want to do here, and like I have a bit more of a breakdown if y'all want to like read it more, but again, your decentralized identifier acts as your authenticator within Web5 applications, removing that need for login credentials. Next thing I want to do is I want to look for where I have this line that says this is where we define our protocol. And you can do this on your own if like later on after we're done. Let's see. Okay, maybe I'll take out some of it. Define our protocol. Here we go. Oh, I used double quotes, or this changed it to double quotes, whereas I was using single quotes. Perfect. So if you found this, this console log, this is the method we're going to use to define our protocol, and we'll walk through like the different things that I added to here. Okay. And we'll even see, I seen a message about syncing. I think we'll see that here as well. All right, cool. So let's look at how we've defined our protocol and what we set it up with, right? Again, I have that URI that doesn't necessarily go to anything, but it describes what's happening and it's a unique identifier. I've also set publish to true, which allows anybody to be able to discover this protocol and use it themselves. I'm okay with that. It makes this usable. You need it. Then I have two different types of messages. As we saw earlier when I showed y'all, we had a secret message that only I will be able to see. And then we have a direct message that if you sent it to somebody else, they will be able to see it. Then with our structure, we'll say, all right, now we want to actually decide like who gets to interact with it and how. With the secret message, I only want myself to be able to read it, or whoever wrote it, the author, to be able to read that secret message. But anybody can write a secret message if they wanted to. They just wouldn't be able to read anybody else's. Now for a direct message, and maybe I should zoom in just a smidge. I don't know if it's too small for you all. For a direct message, which is like one that I'm sending to a particular person, the author can read their own direct message because they wrote it. Then a recipient can also read that direct message because they're receiving it. And anyone can write a direct message if they wanted to. Cool. All right. So hopefully, I wish I could see y'all's faces or thumbs up, but hopefully that made sense. Can the schema be something random? Oh, I skipped that. Oh, hold on. So I did use a random one, but I will strongly recommend using schema.org. Schema.org has a ton of different schemas on here, like messages. It helps with just some uniformity and just making sure everything's good. It just makes sure you got all your ticks checked or whatever, your check boxes ticked. That's what I want to say. So if you want to do like a thing or a person, I will use schema.org. For me, I'm being a rebel and I was just using any URL. I will not necessarily recommend that. Cool. And somebody said the explanation is good and understandable. Perfect. Love to see it. All right. Moving forward. I'm feeling better. All right. So next thing we want to do is we want to query for that protocol. So I'll back up a little bit. We've created this protocol, right? But in order for our application to use the protocol, or anybody that's like leveraging this, for the application to be able to use the protocol, they need to install the protocol first. But you don't want to install it if it's already installed. So what you would do is you would query or search the DWN if that protocol already exists. And if it doesn't, we will install it. And if it does, then we will just say, hey, it already exists. So that's what we're going to do. First, we're going to do the logic for installing. So we're going to look for this console log that says this query is in my local protocol. And after that, we're going to go ahead and paste in the query. And I will explain this query very quickly. So what this is doing is it's going to my DWN and it's saying I want to look for all the queries that have this protocol URL. And, or not, I want to look for all the queries. I want to look for all the protocols that have this protocol URL. If it comes back as it exists, then we don't need to install it. But if it doesn't come back as it exists, then we will install it. We want to do a similar thing for the remote protocol as well. So here we have a method again that says query remote protocol. We have a console log for it as well. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this, paste it in, replace the console log. I like doing that because it helps people know exactly where to go. And the biggest difference you'll see is for remote protocol, it specifies this from property. So you're just filtering or checking who created this, or where is this protocol coming from, and it's coming from this DID. And then again, we're filtering for that particular protocol URL. So we're doing two checks. We're checking on the local DWN and we're checking on the remote DWN for protocols. Let me see the chat. Zoom in again. Okay. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Maybe I will take this off. I hope that's good. All right. Next thing we want to do, let me see the time. We're not doing too bad on time. All right, now we want to actually create the methods to install the protocols, both on the remote DWN and the local DWN. So first, this is going to be for the local. So I'll just search for this console log again. We'll go back, we'll paste, and we're going to go ahead and replace this line with the configuration. All right, so again, the word configure, I like to think of it as install. It's literally saying like, hey, on this DWN, I want to configure, install a new DWN that has this protocol definition. And that is the one that we defined right here. This protocol definition that we talked about earlier that has a secret message, a direct message, and a protocol URL. One more level. Okay. Okay. All right. I wish my camera was on. It sucks. Okay. Can I mention some existing application? Oh, wait, I shouldn't be getting distracted. But there are some apps. Either Angie will tell you or Ace, or I can show y'all later. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we want to install it on a remote DWN as well. We want to install our remote protocol. Or we want to install the protocol on our remote DWN. Sorry, I misspoke. All right. Once we've done all that, we've basically done all we needed to do for this DWN or for this protocol setup. We've defined it, we've checked if it existed, and we've installed it, or at least we created the methods for it. Next, we'll see that we already have I already wrote the code for this, right? So when we look for configure our protocol, we're going to go ahead and paste this in. And this is so huge. I hope I'll be able to not miss anything. But this logic is basically calling all of those methods we created earlier. So first, we'll define our new protocol. Then we'll get the URL from that protocol. After that, we'll query for whether it's we'll query for the protocol locally, right? We're like, does this exist already? If it doesn't and it returns with a 200, or the array, because it usually returns an array, the array is a length of 0, then we're going to say, all right, let's install it. And that same thing happens for the remote DWN as well. It checks to see if the protocol exists. If not, it installs it. Okay. Okay, in terms of writing the messages, so next, we already saw that we configured it, and just similar to how we did in that quick start, we're going to write a message to our DWN. I have the logic separated just to make it easier for you all to see. Like I have like writing a secret message versus writing a direct message. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and search for the words secret message, and it's right here. I'm going to paste it in, and we can break down what's happening. A lot is happening, especially with it being this big. But again, we need our protocol. So we're referencing that. Then we're going to use records.write or records.create. They're literally do the same thing. They're just aliases for each other. And we're going to pass in our data. In our case, it's going to be this message object that we typed into that input box. And we're going to go ahead and specify that we wanted to use our protocol URL. So I'm using a little bit of like, I could have literally typed out Black Girl Bites, whatever I had here, but I'm like, I can just grab it off of the actual object instead. Our protocol path, I particularly want this to be a secret message, and protocol path would be related to these parts right here, as you can see, like the types and the structure. And then after that, we want to put in the schema, and we want to put in who's going to receive this. And I put in my did because it's a secret message. No one else is going to receive this, only me. It's going to be sent to me. Okay. Next thing, we're going to do a very similar thing for the direct message. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. Very similar logic here that's happening. It's so big for me. I'm just going to zoom it out just a little bit just so I can see it. But again, it looks for that protocol. It writes to the DWN, and it's like specifying like, hey, I want it to be using the direct message. I wanted to use this particular schema. And in our case, the biggest difference here, whereas the secret message was getting sent to like ourselves, now the direct message is getting sent to the recipient did, or whatever did that you pasted into that input box. Okay. I hope people are following, but there's nothing else to copy and paste. We'll just take a look at some of the stuff that are already happening here. So in terms of, so we already have like all the ways to write to the DWN, but for submitting, we have to do a couple of things, right? So when we hit the submit button, first it determines like, oh, are we sending it, which did are we sending it to? Is this a direct message? If it is, we're going to send it to a particular person. But if it's a secret message, we'll send it to ourselves. After that, we're going to go ahead and construct the direct message or the secret message. And you can see what it's the objects existing of. Like it'll have text, it'll have a timestamp, it'll have like who's sending it, the type, and more. Another thing we can look at, let's see the time. We have 15 minutes, cool. Another thing we can look at is how we're actually retrieving the methods after. So what we're doing is we're querying for it. So if we look for the method fetch messages, you can see that I have two other methods again, one called fetch user message and fetch direct messages. Let's say we look at fetch direct messages. It's querying particularly for any messages that are happening with this protocol. And then after that, it'll like do some like basically turn the data into JSON that we can actually work with. and it'll return it, and that's how it shows up in your UI. If you look at fetch user messages, I particularly searched for ones that were like from my did because I wanted to see which ones I sent. My screen's blurry. I don't know. Sorry. And then last but not least is the delete method that we have as well. And I've already written that out so you don't have to. And that's doing almost very similar to what we saw earlier with the quick start. But first we have to query for that particular record. So we're like, okay, where is this record? We want to get it by its record ID. And once we grab it, we go ahead and do record.delete to delete it. And once it's successful, we're good. So if you followed all of this, I know I might have went a little bit faster than I needed to. If you followed all of this, you can go ahead and like, I would encourage you to open it in a pop-up. Sometimes like Code Sandbox like doesn't have, like when it's open in the browser preview, some of the buttons don't work as well as they should. But if you go ahead and open up the window or the tab here, and then I would open it up, take the same URL and open it up in maybe an incognito window, just so you can try out sending messages in between. And let's try with sending a secret message first. You already saw this, but I'm giving you a chance as well. And I also put the ability to send an image, so we could try that out next. So I'm just gonna write, hey, and I'm gonna press submit. Ooh, I might have missed something. Let's see what error we have here. Failed to create, unable to create protocol definition. I might have changed something. Secret message protocol. Okay. Let's go back. It's good to see errors happen. So let's look for that secret message protocol thing that I did somewhere. I put it in quotes. I think I shouldn't have. Here we go. Save and refresh. All right, so I can press hey, submit message. Now we see again, I took that information, which was in the construct message method, construct. It's displaying the information. So, right, we have a message, we have a current date and time, we have a did, we have the type, and we can even do an image URL. So let's say I wanted to send, let's try, y'all, if you have this running, try looking for an image online. So I'm just gonna look for like a Mean Girls image. And I am going to go ahead and copy the image address. And I'll double check that this ends with JPEG or PNG. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna paste this image URL into the secret message box, and I'm just gonna say, or actually I wanna do direct message. I'm gonna say, hello, do you see this image? And in my incognito window, I'll copy the did for that person because that's their ID. I'll paste it into enter recipient's did. And then I'm gonna go ahead and press submit message. And what happens is on my side, I do see the image, which is perfect. And hopefully we can see it on the other side too. If you don't, you can trigger it by saying refresh messages. That calls the fetch messages method. But here we have it. And because I'm the author of this, I'm the only one that can delete the messages. The recipient can't delete the messages. I'll head back to the slides. Sorry if this was chaotic, y'all. Okay. We are essentially wrapping up. I didn't think I would really take this long. It's kind of crazy. But So right now we can send, as we saw, we can send messages to ourselves and trusted friends, but there's so much more we can actually do, right? We can create comments, we can have reactions to things, we can even send it to different groups of people using protocol roles. Luckily, we have a couple of hackathons going on right now, so you can actually use this project or the chat application or the share to do that's in our website as a jumping off point and build off of that if you wanted to. If you had your own ideas, that's great as well, but just putting that out there for anyone who's having a hard time getting started, definitely leverage, if you want to leverage that repository. I will say Ace made a really good share to do app using Nuxt. I think that's great. And if you are like used to another framework, that's okay. Again, you look at the quick start, it uses like plain vanilla JavaScript. It's just using CRUD functionality. So all you essentially need to do is remember that you need to like connect to a did, you need to write to your DWN, you need to read, etc., etc. I'm gonna head back. I did have a quick quiz, but I don't know. Let's do it. And it's only seven questions on there. But before we go to that, I want to just put out a couple of other use cases for Web5. If you wanted to, like, you feel like, oh man, I can't think of any ideas. Angie's always talking about food review applications you can build with Web5. So instead of having to like put your review on like Google and Yelp and all these different places, you can have them all in one place. Maybe you have like a place to store all your music playlist. If you use Tidal and Spotify and Apple Music, you can use Web5 for voting or create a social media app or a personal data vault or a healthcare data management app. The possibilities are really endless. I do want to like drop these resources for you all. So definitely check out the developer.tbd.website. And if you're just tuning in and you're not part of the hackathons yet, you can join in. I welcome you to. There's the web5.devpost.com website. There's the Diff Hackathon, and then there's the Dev Career Hackathon. I'll share my slides with you so that you're not like, oh, I can't keep up. And then my last top tip, y'all, is if you have access to the ChatGPT plugins, I would leverage that if I were you. I use it so much. Let me see. I would probably embarrass myself with how much I use this. But let me zoom in a little bit more for y'all to see. Basically, you can see right here, like sometimes I like chat with the plugin just to see like, hey, why is my protocol not working? Some of the questions that you may have, and maybe you're like, oh man, I want to like brainstorm how I want to build this, or maybe no one's awake in the Discord and we're not responding. I always reach out to ChatGPT and I like do a little bit of back and forth with it. I think that's really, really helpful if you're still trying to get a good understanding of Web5, particularly using this plugin because it's been trained on our documentation. With the last 6 minutes left, I've tried to do the, let me just stop sharing really quickly. And this is where I want y'all to pull out your phones. It's just going to be a quick recap of like what we learned earlier. And I just want to make sure that like y'all understood it. I know I went pretty fast, so it could be a good review. I am going to tell you what link to go to, and after that, we will wrap up. Okay. And let me share again. Hopefully it doesn't embarrass me. All right, let's go. All right, so what I want y'all to do, I would prefer, not I would prefer, but it would be easier if you use your phone than your laptop, unless you have like multiple screens. But Dev Career definitely wanted to do a Kahoot quiz, and I'm like, I do too, so I'll just do it. Go ahead and go to www.kahoot.it, or you can use this QR code right here. I'll make it a little bigger. You can use your QR code to connect to it. Yeah, plugins are paid, y'all. Sorry. I'm trying to think of other alternatives. If you have access to Copilot, that's also helpful. Okay, we got a couple people on here. Awesome. I'll wait till we get to like how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's like 186 people on the call. I'll wait till we get to like maybe 15 or something. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of people. Okay, I can't even count. Cool. Awesome. Great, 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 great. Once it starts dying down, I will start it. I might go ahead and start it. If you don't get to join in, that's all right. You could still just like guess from your brain. All right. Like just on your own. But basically, the questions are going to come up and it's going to be multiple choice but in the form of shapes. So instead of like A B C D, it's going to be like square, triangle, diamond, circle. So, first question is, what is the primary purpose of a DID? Is it to, or a DID? Is it to track user data? Is it to provide a centralized user profile? Is it to facilitate anonymous web browsing? Or is it to enable user-owned independent digital identities? Oh, I forgot to put it in the chat. You're right. You can still join in, y'all, even though it started, by the way, because you still get the game pin right here. I'm going to post it, paste it right here. All right. It was to enable user-owned independent digital identities. Maybe it's okay because it's the first question. I might have tricked y'all a little bit, but it's definitely not to provide a centralized user profile. We want to get away from centralization. All right, next question. Ooh, I love the scoreboard. This is always exciting. I don't know who Andrew is, but they're leading y'all. And then we got Zaxby, Yusuf, Emoti, and Elite following close behind. All right, second question. What are decentralized web nodes used for in Web5? Are they used for storing and managing decentralized data? Are they for mining cryptocurrency? Are they processing large-scale AI computations? Or are they for enhancing internet speed? Oh, nice. Y'all are voting inside the chat. I like that. Cool. It's for storing and managing decentralized data, not enhancing internet speed, y'all, and not mining cryptocurrency. It's not nothing with AI either, but it's for basically you have data, you want to store your data in there, and you want to have control over that data. That's what the DWNs are helping you with. All right, let's see the scoreboard. Oh, people just dropped off. Oh no, but you still have a chance to come back. We got Andrew with 1,698 points. Zaxby, the Lime Skis, Z Codes, and Elite still on the board. We see you. And then up 5 places is Franco. I see you. Keep climbing. All right. What is the primary purpose of a protocol in Web5? Is it to encrypt data? Is it to define rules for data interchange? Is it to increase internet speed? Or is it to design user interfaces? Remember, y'all, I can give you a hint, like protocols were basically helping us decide like how the data is structured. Yeah. Oh no, it's not to encrypt data, y'all. It was deciding how the data is structured. Maybe I wasn't clear. And who interacts with that data. So when you saw me write like, oh, this person can read a secret message versus this person can be able to write a message. All right, we got a few more questions left, not too many. Up 17 places is Cruise God. I see you, Cruise God. We got Andrew still leading. Nobody wants to contest. We got Z Code, Zaxby, the Lime Skis, and Elicam. All right, next. Decentralized identifiers are based on, and I mentioned this, are they based on cryptocurrency, cryptographic principles, cryptograms, or cryptometers? If y'all don't get it, I understand. I was very chaotic in this session, so I apologize. I really hope you all get the one that it is, though. 68 answers. Wow. Yes, cryptographic principles. I'm so proud of y'all. Good job. All right. Now, oh, Andrew's still in the lead, y'all. Y'all gotta get him. It's based off of speed and accuracy, just so you know. So we got Andrew with 3,438, Z codes with 3,002, Zaxby, Limeskis, and Asher. And then Victorious is up by 19 places. What is Web5? And is it an SDK that builds for building apps? Oh, I had a typo. Sorry, y'all. Building apps that prioritize data ownership, a new version of HTML, a faster version of the current internet, or a 3D web browsing experience? The game's not letting you join. It's okay. Some people are like writing their answers in the chat. Sorry about that. Nice. An SDK for building apps that prioritize data ownership. Perfect. All right, let's see who is in the lead. Still Andrew. Andrew's not playing with y'all. But we got Z Codes, Limeskis, McNoble, and Franco. All right, true or false? Your DID gives you access to your DWN. Remember, your DID is like an authenticator. It's your identity. It's your ID. All right, I love to see it. 68 said true. That is the correct answer. We are almost at the last question. We got Andrew still at the top. He's like 1,000 points ahead of y'all. Come on, guys. We got Z Codes, Franco, Limeskis, and Asher still killing it, still holding it down. And 5 players just hit their answer streak of 5. I think this is the last question. What are DIDs in the context of Web 5? I guess this is what they stand for. Do they stand for digital interface designs, decentralized internet devices, decentralized identifiers, or data integration directories? I seen someone say the wrong answer in the chat. Oh, no. Actually, yeah, I did. All right, good. Decentralized identifiers. Good job, y'all. Let's see the official winners. Third place, we got the Limeskis out here. Good job with 5,010 Elite. And then we also have, obviously, Andrew. Great job, everyone. And then for runners up, we had, they went so fast. I think it was Zaxby and somebody else. Sorry, Ashley. I just thought you was wrong because I saw someone say blue actually, and then someone say yellow, so I got confused. All right. So that is it. I'm gonna put my slides in the chat. I apologize for all of the chaos. My camera's off. I couldn't share at one point and I was going too fast for y'all, but I definitely appreciate your patience and your questions. They were very it's actually very helpful to me because I want to give this talk again and it helps me to refine it even more. Feel free to ask in the chat or go to the Discord, or I think there's a Slack that we may be added to for Dev Career. Feel free to ask more questions there and I'm happy to help. All right, y'all. See you later.